You are standing on a sidewalk in New York City. Suddenly, the Earth stops rotating. 1 second, total halt. The ground beneath your feet ceases its motion. Everything seems fine for a fraction of a millisecond. Then, the laws of physics decide to finally settle the score. Inertia is a cruel master. While the planet stops, everything not bolted to the bedrock keeps moving. At the equator, the rotational speed is about 1,000 miles per hour. You, your car, and your neighbor's golden retriever are suddenly projectiles. The sudden deceleration transforms the entire human population into high-velocity missiles. Everything flies eastward, buildings shear off their foundations. The sidewalk becomes a launch pad for an unplanned trip across the state. The ground stops, but the atmosphere does not. Air is a fluid, it maintains its momentum. 1,000-mile-per-hour wind slams into the surface. This is not a breeze, it is a global supersonic shockwave. The friction between the stagnant ground and the rushing air turns the lower atmosphere into a furnace. Forests are not just knocked over, they are shredded into splinters. Cities are scrubbed clean from the map by a wall of air moving faster than a commercial jet. The pressure differential creates sonic booms that shatter every window on the planet simultaneously. Your eardrums give up immediately. The skin on your face is stripped away by supersonic dust particles. It is very windy. Assuming you survived the initial flight and the supersonic wind, you have a new problem. The Earth is no longer a perfect sphere. Rotation creates a bulge at the equator. Without that spin, the planet begins to settle into a more comfortable, rounder shape. The centrifugal force that held the oceans at the equator vanishes. Gravity takes over. The massive bulge of water starts migrating toward the poles. This is a planetary-scale tidal wave. The Atlantic and Pacific Oceans decide to leave the tropics behind. Entire continents are swallowed by a creeping wall of salt water. Europe becomes an archipelago. North America is split in two. The water doesn't just flood the coasts, it replaces the equator with a giant global belt of ocean. The land masses shift. The crust groans under the sudden redistribution of mass. Massive earthquakes ripple through the mantle. Volcanoes that have been dormant for millennia decide that now is a great time to wake up. The world is now a watery donut with two giant land blobs at the top and bottom. You are likely underwater now. This is a significant zoning violation for your house. Now we look at the core. The Earth's magnetic field is generated by the swirling liquid iron in the outer core. This is the geodynamo. No rotation means the dynamo fails. The magnetic shield simply evaporates. The planet is now naked. The solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles from the sun, hits the atmosphere directly. Without the magnetosphere, the sun begins stripping away the ozone layer. High-energy gamma rays and X-rays rain down on the surface. Any surviving biological matter is essentially being microwaved from orbit. The atmosphere slowly leaks into space. The sky turns a sickly shade of purple as the chemistry of the air changes. The temperature swings become extreme. Without rotation, one side of the planet faces the sun for 6 months. The other side freezes in a permanent dark winter. The day side becomes a scorched wasteland of molten glass. The night side becomes a frozen tundra of liquid nitrogen. Life has very few options left. Mostly it just stops existing. The final stage is structural failure. The sudden stop caused a massive kinetic energy transfer. The energy released is equivalent to billions of nuclear warheads detonating across every fault line. The crust begins to slide. Tectonic plates collide at speeds usually reserved for highway traffic. Mountain ranges are pushed up in seconds and then collapse under their own weight. The atmosphere, now thin and irradiated, carries the smell of sulfur and ozone. Great plumes of magma erupt from the seafloor, boiling the remaining oceans into caustic steam. The global belt of water begins to evaporate, creating a thick acidic fog that blankets the poles. The surface is a mosaic of lava rivers and glaciers of frozen carbon dioxide. Every single piece of human infrastructure is gone. The satellites in orbit are the only witnesses. They watch as the Earth transforms from a blue marble into a charred, stationary rock. The Moon stays in orbit, though it looks slightly confused. The physics are relentless. The result is a planetary-scale demolition project. There is no one left to file a complaint. The silence is absolute. The chaos has finally reached its equilibrium. The Earth is now just a very large, very still, very dead pebble in the void. Technically, the Earth hasn't been destroyed. The mass is still there. The gravity is still working. It is just a very hostile place to visit. You have been vaporized, frozen, crushed, and irradiated in the span of a few hours. The laws of motion are uncompromising. They do not care about your plans for the weekend. The planetary rotation was the only thing keeping the apocalypse at bay. Now that it is gone, the universe has corrected the error. Despite the total extinction of the human race and the collapse of the biosphere, there is one remaining issue. Since the Earth stopped moving, your commute to work is technically 0 miles. Your employer will likely still expect you to clock in by 9. The universe is full of ways to die. Some are just faster than others. Subscribe to the What If Club to discover more ways to be immediately vaporized by physics.